All I remember is there was the 3-digit code and I felt super smart.
That's what it's all about.
So that's like 4 or 5 hours of my life.
You will literally never get back.
That's true.
So that's a good segue. Everybody, this is episode 4 of the Backlog, and we're starting off with an apology. Unfortunately, the content for episode 4, the original episode, was lost. On the bright side, learned a lot about redundancy and keeping multiple files. So this won't happen again. But I want to make a sincere apology on behalf of the Backlog. We should have put this episode out sooner. You should have gotten the original episode. Instead, you're going to get a mishmash of our broken memories of the last half of Life is Strange.
Oh, man.
So we're going to try and do you justice, and we're going to get right into it. So who remembers, who's got the best notes, do you think?
Roslyn?
Yeah.
Probably Roslyn.
Yeah.
She's got this very detailed notebook.
You got to say something. Roz.
Oh, I haven't seen those notes.
Yeah.
No, that's because I actually handwritten.
Oh, that's why.
Nice.
It's like almost a diary. I mean, crazy.
Yeah, I started
Just
doing
like the
that
game.
for all the games, and then I stopped after. Yeah. Anyways, we'll get to that later.
So I'll tell you what, why don't you get us started? Where did we leave off?
Episode 4 started with us getting to know Chloe again, sort of, because she's in the wheelchair now.
Right.
Yeah.
Right.
We get to go through all of that with her after we changed the past. And then
Because we could travel through time by use of Polaroids, right?
exactly
Yeah.
through pictures.
And we were able to save her dad.
Yeah, but obviously, as all of us knew, something bad was going to happen in place of that.
Yes.
And is that episode 3, Chaos Theory?
That was when we saved her dad. Episode 4 is after we see the consequences of our actions.
Yeah, and we get experience an alternate timeline where Chloe is, quadriplegic.
But she has her dad,
Yeah.
so cool.
Cool. Hey, bro, I heard you're a quadriplegic, but at least you got your dad.
Seem that way to her either, because she's like,
Well, she has an alternative. There's an
Yeah,
alternative.
she had no idea about that other
Yeah.
timeline, technically.
But she's also, like, her personality is a whole lot different, too.
Yeah.
She's a lot more grounded and humble and not, a little bit more mature, I'd say.
Yeah, she's
Definitely.
still strong
Hates
and
the
brave,
word hella.
though. Yes, this is how.
Well, she hates the word hella in this version, doesn't she? In this reality? She's like,
Oh, I
hate
don't
when people
remember.
use that word.
I don't remember.
Yeah, she totally does.
It sounds right to me, Elisa.
I remember it feeling really out of character for her.
It was funny. Both characters, previous to the time travel, she was kind of an intolerable, angsty teenager that was dealing with the challenges that most angsty teenagers deal with. I mean, divorce is not that uncommon these days. Hating your stepdad is not that uncommon. But the second role she's in, where I still found her a little intolerable, is certainly a lot more unique in this case. So maybe she gets a free pass.
She was definitely more considerate and generally, like, really thinking about her parents and all the troubles that they're going through and stuff like that.
Yeah.
Oh, like
Her,
more selfless.
Yeah.
Her characteristics kind of seem more like she has a positive outlook in this reality compared to like when she's just kind of taking things for granted and having this personality that's all like edgy. At least that's how I felt.
Yeah, no, I think that's a pretty good assessment. So, guys, how long does this alternate timeline last? How do you get out of it?
It didn't last too
Chloe
long. I think
does
it
not
lasted like just
enjoy-
overnight, I think, right?
Yeah, she doesn't like being in pain so much, and she doesn't
Yeah.
like being such a financial burden on the parents. So she asks Max to, get some sort of drug from upstairs?
Morphine.
Oh, yeah,
Morphine,
that was
right.
just for painkiller. And then after that, she tells her to turn the machine up to
Crank
11.
it up too much so that
Right.
so that she'll pass on.
Yeah.
And you have a choice.
And so everybody had a decision to make too.
Yes,
So
that's right.
at that point, did they not?
Yeah.
Yeah.
You
Right.
could either
Chloe's
choose to
request.
say, yes, I'll do it, or no. And then it doesn't, like,
But
it doesn't
either way,
matter
I think-
anyway,
yeah.
because you do just kind of leap back in time to fix it. But I guess it's still like a moral decision at that point. So
Yeah.
for me, I chose to listen to Chloe and, like, do as she wished. Partially because, like, I felt like in Max's shoes, she probably felt guilty for what she did. And I don't know, like, it is Chloe's wish to be, like, I guess be let go in a dignified manner, kind of thing. So
Well, and like not have her family kind of keep struggling as well. She's very aware that this is very expensive, just keeping her alive,
Yeah.
and she knows she doesn't have much longer to go either.
Yes.
Thank goodness we live in Canada. Thank you, Canadian healthcare. All joking aside, that's an incredible burden for a young teenage girl to know she's put her family under.
Well, and to ask someone a request like that, too, I think it would just be a really hard decision in general.
Yeah, like, it's like asking if you can get a ride to work. She wants an answer immediately, and it's like, oh man. And to us, this whole reality is totally new, so we haven't even digested it yet.
And yeah, I mean, for me, I couldn't do it. I mean, it's a game challenging you and sort of trying to get you to grips with perhaps your own morality or whatever, right? Or what is right? Is there a right or wrong in this sort of situation? But yeah, I mean, the game gives you that choice.
That's interesting.
yeah, I don't think there
Either
is
way, I
a.
think you get sent back to the present.
Yeah, you do. Yeah.
time. Yeah.
I don't think there's a right or wrong answer in this case. Some people argue for it, and some people argue against it.
I think that it's
but it's just
supposed
more
to
like how you feel.
I think that it's supposed to underscore the gravity of your choices, like to kind of underline the fact that yes, when you make decisions, it will matter and it will affect the game, even though it does on a minor point. But then we get to the ending that we discuss a little bit later.
This is like we're living the game, isn't it? We get to do this all over again and change the outcome if we want.
Oh, man.
But I mean, eventually in episode 4, we come back to the main sort of reality or whatever, right? We're kind of snap back and I don't know. I kind of lost where we sort of pick up.
Well, you have a very mad Chloe eventually. And
I think I remember once Chloe comes back, basically the investigation continues, and then you basically start playing detective, gathering clues and stuff on Nathan and whatnot, like
Yes,
exploring his room
Right.
and finding evidence and everything like that,
oh, yeah.
and then doing the whole putting all the evidence on the board and then trying to connect the dots.
Yeah. And
Yeah, right.
And letting Warren beat the crap out of Nathan.
That's right, and that's
Was that in
that part
chapter
happens before we gather the evidence. Before that, we're stuck in the dorm in that sort of weird little bit of time loop. Does anyone else remember that? Am I
think that
making
was
things
later
up?
on.
I think that
It was like a
later
nightmare
on, yeah.
sequence.
Yeah.
Yeah, that was later. That was like close to the end, I think.
Okay, my mistake.
I think that is this the part where Chloe, like through the playing detective and stuff, you end up at what's his name, Frank, is the RV, and Chloe ends up shooting him. And
Yes.
you have to
Right.
avoid that. or face those
Right,
consequences.
right.
Yeah, you needed to get the contacts from Frank with
Yes.
like, you know, all the evidence of like who he contacted and stuff to narrow it down to Nathan and figure out like when or if he actually did buy drugs that night that what's her name got you know,
Rachel.
drugged. Rachel, yes.
Yeah.
Yeah, and that encounter for me was just super frustrating because there were so many results that ended in somebody dying or a dog dying, or you know,
Yeah.
I wanted, I wanted the good ending or whatever, right, where nobody dies, and it took forever to get that because you had to
It
make
took so
very
much
specific
time.
choices.
There were some choices where you literally had to play out a certain sequence first before the option opens up when you rewind time.
Yeah.
True. Yeah.
Yes. And that
That's-
leads back to, I think we go back to the junkyard eventually after figuring out all those clues, and then they end up finding Rachel's body.
Well, we go to the
Yeah.
party first.
Oh
the
yeah, you
party's
go to the
first.
party first.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So you know that.
Yeah.
Okay, give it to us, notes. Come on, Roz.
Yeah.
Stop
Chloe's
keeping us in
really
suspense.
mad.
Be our guide.
Yeah, Chloe's really mad. We storm over to the party and she's like ready to get Nathan because they figured out something about Rachel, I guess.
Well, we found that dark room, right?
Yeah.
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 Oh yeah.
So she's on a rampage. We lose her. We go into the Vortex party and look for her. And in the meantime, we bump into a bunch of people. And
All right, 'cause-
eventually,
Because I remember, who's it, Victoria?
yeah, you have
Yeah.
to talk to Victoria and you have a chance to warn her.
You
About
do.
Nathan.
I didn't, but I remember being very impatient because I had limited time. So like, I'm not going to keep rewinding and rewinding to try to convince her that she's in trouble. So
I
Well,
think
that ended up
too bad.
better anyway.
the options were different depending on whether you were whether you treated
Right,
Victoria
different
nicely in the previous episodes too. So if you
And I
were
didn't.
not nice, then you basically can't convince Victoria to you know, of
Yeah.
the dangers that she's in.
now, one question I have, because when I was playing the earlier episodes, right, episode 2, Kate died, right, in my playthrough,
Right.
So
Yes.
did Kate really have any sort of role or whatever in any of the episodes? Was she at that party again, or
She's
did
not at
you
the
even
party, but there's
interact
a
with her at
scene
all,
you
or
get
is
to
it just kind
go-
of like, well,
Yeah, there's a scene where you get to go visit her in the hospital, and
Yeah.
it's like it's quite nice. And she's starting to draw again, and like it's positive, and she's thanking you for changing things for her.
Yeah. And
She sounds
texts-
genuinely happy too.
Yeah, she texts you too. And she tells you which room is Nathan's in the boys' dormitory.
Oh yeah, that's
Right.
right.
Yeah.
How do you get through that, Brett, when you didn't have that?
I don't know, because I somehow figured it out. I I honestly can't remember, but I know Kate didn't tell me from beyond the grave.
His room is over there.
I think it might have been trial and error or something. Yeah, I'm not 100% on that. But yeah, I did find
I remember.
Nathan's
I
room.
think you can like look at the whiteboards and things and figure it out somehow.
Yeah, there's
Yeah.
something that's the map that says what rooms are what. So when I got the text from Kate, I was like, oh, I think I already knew that.
So, when did we go through the process of gathering all that evidence and putting it on that board?
The
When?
evidence thing happens before you go to the Vortex Club party, I think.
Yeah.
Yeah, before
Okay,
you find the bunker.
That's right, because
Yes.
that's how you find the bunker.
Yes.
And that, for me, that was a challenging experience. There was a couple mini games in the game where you almost needed like a physical representation of all those props. I spent forever getting through them. It was a great idea, but it kind of caught me off guard. I wasn't prepared to think that hard in this game.
Well, and yeah, they were like genuine puzzles, like environmental puzzles, right?
Yeah.
And you spend the bulk of the entire game not really doing any of those kinds of puzzles. So all of a sudden, when you're in this barn, yeah, you have to do all this stuff to open up this door that you've never really done any of these sort of, I need to tie a rope here to make this do that and open up, it was...
It
I
felt
struggled
like
with it too.
It felt like a classic
good.
point
I'm
and
glad.
click adventure
I'm not
game.
the only one.
Yeah. It was confusing.
Yeah, it was a frustrating one. So we have gone to the party. Some of us have tried to warn Victoria. She's listened to some of us. Did she listen to anyone on this show?
Yeah,
she listened to me.
Okay, so what does she do if she listens to you guys?
She listens to you, and then she ends up telling Mr. Jefferson about it,
Oh, yeah, that's his
which actually is what ends up getting her in trouble.
name. Yeah.
So if you weren't able to convince Victoria, then she doesn't end up in the dark room with you.
Yeah.
Yeah, is that how it turned out?
So by trying to save her, you actually end up getting her in more trouble.
Yeah, because you warn her basically about the wrong person. You say,
Yeah. Watch out for Nathan.
yeah.
But it's like, no,
So
it's
she's
Mr.
like,
Jefferson.
She goes straight to
Jefferson.
Well, and that was kind of the big twist of the episode too, right? Because I mean,
Yes.
after all that Vortex Club stuff happens, I'm pretty sure you meet up again with Chloe, and then you're like, "Hey, I think we got to go to the junkyard because I think that'll explain what happened to Rachel or something."
Well, Jefferson sent a text from Nathan's phone to you to goad you into going to there.
yeah.
Right.
Oh, right, yeah. Yeah, they say something like oh, hey, well, there's going to be no evidence of all this stuff or whatever, ha ha ha, and
And then you're like, no way.
and it's a tarp or a trap.
For people listening, get ready for it.
Spoiler
Jefferson's
alert.
the bad guy.
It's true. In big bold letters in my notes, I said, the end of this chapter really, really surprised me. I was sure it was Nathan.
Yeah,
And
I was really
they did a
surprised
good
too.
job with that, right?
Yeah,
Yeah, they actually, throughout the entire game, they had like little hints and evidence that point to who the real culprits were. It's just, to you, it's like circumstantial, like, you don't really know what's going on sort of thing. Like in episode 2, you remember there were like a bunch of syringes and stuff in the junkyard? They were
Right.
like, alluding to the fact that Rachel was killed there. And even the the sort of spirit dough that wanders around that particular junkyard all the time, that was like basically Rachel's spirit. And even at the very beginning with how Jefferson handles Kate during that suicide scene, and also like the evidence with like his vehicle number and everything that you look through on that whiteboard of stuff of evidence. You can actually narrow it down to Jefferson before it's actually revealed that it's him.
That's interesting though, because can you even
can't do anything
suggest
about it.
that as an option in the game and say, no, I think we got the wrong person?
Yeah,
Right,
no,
if not
unfortunately,
Nathan.
no. It
there's that
always
part of-
points to Nathan, but the evidence to point it at Jefferson is there.
Oh, okay.
There's a part when you're like in the principal's office, I think like the second episode, where you can, you can actually say it was Mark Jefferson that did all this. And then they just laugh it off, but he kind of starts doubting you, I believe.
Yeah, you're right. That reminds me. Well, good for them for creating a suspenseful structure with all the tools necessary to sort of solve the problem. That's no easy feat. So, where do we go after the junkyard, Roz?
Oh, we wake up
We get
in the
drugged.
dark room.
Oh yeah, you get stabbed in
yes.
the neck, and then you can't
Yeah.
use your powers, and then
And Chloe got shot.
Chloe's dead.
That's
But-
right.
Yeah.
Well, like how the scene all played out is like, it's all dark and everything. And then I think Max gets a syringe or whatever to her neck. You don't know who it is. You figure it's Nathan. And then Chloe gets shot. And then there's a dramatic reveal of Jefferson's face.
Yeah.
And then you go, oh shit, it was Jefferson.
Oh, no.
With that goatee and mustache, all of a sudden makes a ton of sense.
Victoria, I told her.
And that leads us into episode 5.
Yeah.
Right.
It's pretty crazy how at the very beginning of episode 5, before you click start game, there's like a little ticker on the bottom and there's a link to a trauma support page for it. Like if anything in this chapter disturbs you, go here and look for help. It's like, whoa, that's pretty intense.
Yeah. I thought it was really nice.
Yeah,
that is neat.
Tackles a lot of issues. It's better, for sure.
So we're faced with another puzzle at the beginning of chapter 5, and that is the basement dungeon puzzle.
Dark room.
The dark room. Yeah. For me, it was a lot of trial and error as you sort of navigate your way through escaping that space. That's the end result. I seem to recall everybody had some challenges with that. I think, Daniel, you made it through the most streamlined, though, didn't you?
Yeah, it was pretty easy for me, I think, because like a lot of it was just, to me it looked pretty obvious. Like, oh, I'm supposed to like kick the table over here and then warp back in time and then do all this other weird stuff. It was pretty linear. There weren't a whole lot of options. It was what was it? It was the Jefferson part when he comes in and then David comes in. That's when things were like super crazy trial and error. It's like, oh, I mistimed it. Oh, I need to do this again. Oh,
so much happens there.
Well, and it felt like in that situation too, it was a lot of like, as you fail again and again, you get more information and more options are actually opened up, and then you can try doing different things, right?
Oh yeah, that's right.
I don't think that whole conflict you could have done perfectly right off of the first hop if you made the correct choices, because I don't think the correct choices were actually available to you. The game wanted you to see, a couple deaths or whatever, right? And do a couple of rewinding a few times or whatever, right? To successfully navigate through there.
That's interesting. So you think they were intentionally building suspense by not letting you achieve your goal as early on as possible?
That would make sense.
Makes me angry.
Manipulated.
Well, and like some other puzzles were designed that, you could just kind of fluke out and get it correct right off the bat, right? Because I remember in the alternate past or whatever, right, when you're trying to stop Chloe's dad from leaving, Justin, you said that your very first try, it was effortless for you, and the rest of us were struggling.
That's right. I had no idea there was so many options. So that's a good point.
Daniel, did you get the selfie with Jefferson? Like one of the last photos you have to take is like a picture with him.
I think so. I don't remember.
So you have to like stop everything and be like, actually, I want to take a picture right now. And then,
I remember that. Yeah.
Suspense.
Yeah, you can do that, and it adds it to your collection, right?
And then it becomes a trophy. So I'm like, oh. Yeah, that was one frustrating part for me. So having to take a picture.
It made no sense on why you had to do that.
There's like building on fire. Oh, I'll stop and take a picture.
Well, you are a photographer to the very end.
With my Polaroid camera.
Oh man, you know what? I'll be honest. That not related to the point in the story, but I hated the fact that she was like a selfie artist. I just thought that was, I don't know, just made me nuts.
That's what Victoria thought too.
Yeah, I'm on Team Victoria on this one. So, Roz, keep us moving here.
Yeah. So you have the fight with David and Jefferson, and you basically get to choose whether David kills Jefferson or not by telling him the truth about Chloe.
Oh yeah,
yeah.
Oh, I didn't know you could kill Jefferson.
Yeah, you had to talk to David for a little bit, and then you can tell him the truth or not.
And if you tell him the truth, he kills Jefferson. And if you tell him she's probably fine.
Right. No, I thought that was like a dead end. I said, oh no, I killed him. Shouldn't have done that.
Did we know at that point that she was dead for sure?
Yeah.
Yeah.
I think so.
She was shot in the
Jefferson
head.
was even saying she's dead. Yeah.
That's true. I didn't tell him. I felt like it was just the wrong time, wrong place.
Well, and I knew that we were probably going to, use our magic photo time travel hopping thing or whatever and fix us anyway, right? So
yeah, that's true.
I figured, no, I'm not going to put, I'm not going to tell David that his stepdaughter's dead and just have more violence ensue.
Yeah, I actually was curious, so I did do it just to see it, and then I rewound time, and it's like, oh, I regret doing this. You know, it's like, I shouldn't have seen that.
Lives, Matt. So many lives.
And then after that happens, we have a series of people that we can save while the town is being destroyed by the tornado.
Yes.
Right.
Oh yeah.
The gauntlet.
Yeah.
The
And I
gauntlet.
remember not realizing I could save all those people. And in my list here, it says, you didn't save the trucker. You didn't save Evan. You didn't save Alissa. You didn't save the fisherman. I had no
Did you save
idea.
anyone?
I
It's
saved
like,
no
screw
one.
this.
I saved everybody.
Did you really?
Yeah. yeah.
Same.
Holy
Especially Alyssa,
Except
because I was
Especially
like,
Alyssa.
yeah. Well, yeah, but I mean that. Yeah.
That worked
Yeah,
out.
anytime I saw
I
someone
saved
die,
Victoria, but not warning her. So, she wasn't in the storm, I don't think.
Yeah.
I don't know.
And then
That's-
we get to the diner. And you have the option to kiss Warren or not.
Before we get there, Roz, sorry, I just want to interject. When you're going through that gauntlet and you're supposed to save these people, it's like little help, guys. You know, everybody. I started trying to save Alissa, and she was so clumsy and so useless that probably just like in real life, I was like, you know what, forget it. I'm just gonna best of luck. But if you can't help
Justin.
yourself, I can't help you. Anyways, I'm sorry. Go ahead, Roz.
She was. Didn't she like fall through the floor or something? Anyway.
Yeah, like
Yes,
two
Roz.
times it felt like. It was like, come on. Grab a ledge for the love of God.
But like, and the whole point of all that was to, I think Warren had a Polaroid, right? And so
Yes.
you needed to
Yes.
get to him.
Right.
Yeah.
Yeah.
The one he took of
The
Chloe.
the selfie, or no, the picture you took of you and Chloe.
But
Oh,
you
no,
Warren.
party.
No,
Warren
no,
and Max at the Vortex Club party.
Yeah.
Yes.
Yeah.
It was outside of the party because I think she wanted to
Just-
warn Chloe
Yeah.
before she went in.
Oh man, after that warp, I tried so many times to convince Chloe. It's like, come on, girl, why won't you listen to me? I'm from the future, damn it. I know what happens to you. Listen.
That sounds like one of my
Know
pickup
that.
lines.
Well, and we already went through this game earlier before or whatever, right? Where we had to do all that stuff in the diner to convince her that you had powers because you guessed
Yes.
how much change she had and stuff like that. And
Yeah, the cockroach on the
Yeah.
jukebox.
Well, she wasn't shocked when you appeared on the other side of the door when you broke into the principal's office. So
Yeah.
she's just
Yeah.
like, whatever.
She was like, "Cool, we're in."
Way to go, try hard.
Oh, yeah. I ended up telling her that all that stuff about her dad and how we went back in time for episode 4.
oh yeah, me too.
Yeah.
Well, you couldn't progress further unless you were able to convince her anyways. So
Yeah.
like it would just gray out and you'd have to rewind time again. So it's like, oh, again.
Kind of like when you die, or
Yeah.
quote unquote die.
True.
And then
Yeah. And then what? Oh, we're running towards the lighthouse.
Right. And in the meantime, I think you black out and
Yeah.
then you're in a
Yeah.
whole playground inside your mind. One of those games.
Oh yeah, that's what you were talking about, Justin.
It was so so surreal. It was Evangelion
crazy.
messed up. Evangelion level of messed
So
up.
true.
The game did surprise us at a lot of points with sort of new concepts, which, funny enough, normally I enjoy, but in this game I sort of felt frustrated with because I was enjoying the story. I was enjoying the powers they gave us early on. I didn't want to do like this sort of mini gamey sort of stuff.
Yeah, it felt really unnecessary.
Yeah.
Like it was just dragging it on. And it's like, okay, we get it. We know what happened through the entire game story. Why do we have to run through it again?
Right? Yeah.
Yeah.
Very odd.
There were definitely some like visually disturbing parts in it that made it I'm glad that it had those parts, but like the other like stealing or stealth stuff that was like pointless.
Yeah,
all that
absolutely.
hiding from, I really messed up those things, and
Well,
it was way too long.
Yeah, too long, Alissa, too drawn out.
What were
Uh-oh.
you saying? Yep.
I just said, boing.
That was
Cut
me.
that out. That was me texting you. So you're still with us, Adrian.
Oh yeah, I'm just astonished at how much you guys remember. Because I mean,
It's
obviously,
all
I remember.
Roslyn and her
I
notes.
remember all of
going
this
through the
stuff as you're bringing it up, but I don't like I couldn't recall what order everything happened in. Right, like it's all kind of a jumble to me. Except I like obviously I remember that Jefferson's a bad guy, and and that kind of, and I found that surreal kind of almost not platforming part just like the worst. Just like it just dragged on forever.
Yeah.
Totally
Agree.
true.
Really disturbing.
Well,
the
and,
things
and,
that
and you're
the
kind
guys
of
were saying.
getting beaten over the head again, like, you can't do this kind of thing. Like, these are consequences of your actions, blah, 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 sort of thing, right?
Yeah. Very
Yep. But I like the
Very
museum,
tropey.
the Pricefield Museum with Chloe and Max and with all their little memories. And they're all like they're still while you're going through this big pathway. And getting
Oh,
lit
you
up each
actually-
time you walk past it.
You actually
yeah.
like?
Yeah.
Oh yeah, I actually
I did
found
like
that
it.
part. I didn't like it. Yeah, I found that part so
That was
like dragging on again and
Maybe
stuff.
it was just
so.
like, oh, I'm finally out of that like stealthy part. Enjoying this now.
Oh, yeah.
So keep us going, babe.
Yeah, you're at the lighthouse. You black out, and Rachel's pulled you up, and you have a nice big dramatic finale.
Wait, sorry, Rachel pulls you up?
Or
Rachel?
sorry, Chloe.
Chloe, right.
Well, just a little side note, like during that whole mental freak out or whatever, I think there is a point where you mentioned earlier, Justin, that you were going through the dorms or whatever, right? And I think one time when you go
Yeah.
through the dorms, you're dressed, and I think you even look like Rachel. In
Yeah.
this weird mental
No, it was Victoria.
kind of thing that happens, right? And especially in my
What time was
playthrough,
Rachel?
I ended up seeing
Oh.
Kate, and Kate was very unhappy with me. She's like, "This is all your fault. You let me die," like, and sort of stuff or whatever, right? Yeah.
Yeah, that was creepy.
They're not pulling any punches, are
Yeah,
they?
I think when you see her and she's alive, I think she says, "You should have let me die."
Yes.
She's still mad at you, but
Yeah.
you say
Oh
something.
yeah. Yeah, and then that one scene at the beginning where you're like in the classroom with Jefferson, and then you have to like choose one
Oh,
of these
say those-
weird
I love you, Mr. Jefferson.
dialogues. They're like, yeah, like I love you, Mr. Jefferson, or something crap like that. Oh, it was so. And you
I
can't
choose none of
progress
these.
unless you picked something, right?
Yeah.
Yeah.
It felt
All
so.
of the options are bad.
I felt so violated and forced to submit. It was just like, oh.
Yeah.
Yeah, that was definitely an awkward moment. They did a good job,
Yeah.
giving you that sense of just being genuinely uncomfortable.
And then the part in the diner where everyone's kind of like frozen in time, kind of thing. And then when you walk up to each of them and they kind of tell you, like they say, "Oh, now you're gonna get us all killed" and all that sort of stuff. At the time, I didn't really know what it was talking about, but I guess it sort of alluded to, like, foreshadowed to the part where you have to choose between sacking Arcadia Bay or saving it for, like, for the sake of Chloe and stuff like that.
Dun dun dun. That is the finale.
Yeah.
That
It
was
is,
one
that's-
big binary choice.
Yep.
Right? So bizarre.
That diner was kind of interesting because I was reminded in chapter 2 when you sit down in the diner and Max basically says that she just wished that she could rewind time over and over again and watch this moment last forever. And then you have that whole thing with Max talking to herself in that surreal space, saying like, you know, how she's just basically selfish and like, you know, being a moron and, you know, trying to save everybody when she can't really save anyone and all that. And then, you know, like all that leads up to that last and final choice, and it's just like crazy.
Yeah. So what did you guys choose?
Well,
I chose
think-
to save Chloe the first time, and then the ending felt really bittersweet and kind of, because they're like driving, they're happy, they're like together, but they're driving through this like dead town, like everyone's gone, everything's gone, and so it felt really wrong. But I went back, like I like to do, and chose the other option.
Same. I felt exactly the same about it. It just felt like that wasn't the ending that the developers intended.
okay, and no judgment here. But do you feel genuine about going back and replaying that? Like, for me, the experience is like finite. Like, once I've made that decision, it's over. Like, I can't go back and redo it. It's too late. If I go back and redo it, I'm just going through the paces, and that's how I play games. But that doesn't bother you guys at all?
No, because this game's all about rewinding time.
Oh man,
But I feel like if I got the ending of Saving Arcadia Bay first, I feel like that had some sort of finality to it that maybe I'd be curious about what the other option was, but I would have more difficult at the time rewinding and trying again. That one felt more,
this is nothing in comparison to save scumming Final Fantasy Tactics, man. You know, like you you go back to past saves and level up a different way, and like this is it's one or two, right?
Oh, totally. That's very true.
Yeah.
Well, the developers just completely circumvented that. They were just like, oh, hey, here's a cool way that, you know, you don't have to save scum, because if you didn't like that choice you made, you can choose the other one. You want time, no problem.
Or look it up on YouTube.
That's what I did.
That's fascinating. It was brave of them to make it such a black and white choice after all the time they know the player is put into the game. I was happy with my decision. I saved Chloe, and I never even watched a YouTube ending. I didn't go back and redo it. I just lived with that experience.
Yeah, same for me, because that felt really what the story was all about.
You saved Chloe, and that was it?
Max's relationship with Chloe. And, you know, I felt like sacrificing Chloe would just be kind of counter to that whole narrative that was throughout the whole story. Like, you're doing all of this. You're making all these sacrifices and all these choices just so that Chloe doesn't die, because Chloe keeps on dying. And so...
Don't you feel like she'll just die again?
Yeah, because the whole time she just kept dying in different ways, and
you save her, and then everyone's dead, and then
it just seemed like the world was against her and all that. So it's like,
but now all these other people are dead. So.
Yeah. And actually, you don't even know the death count. Like the ending was so vague and sort of incomplete. Like, you don't know how many people survive. You don't know whether or not Chloe's going to survive the next 24 hours or anything. It just kind of ends.
It could be like a Final Destination scenario where you spend the rest of your life just fighting the Undertaker.
I really didn't like the whole binary choice ending thing, right? Like the way that they had written the game. It was like subtle differences. Like your choices made a difference, but all of those differences were subtle in how they played out. And to have this stark, like press Y to kill everyone in town, press B to kill Chloe type thing, right? Like that just seemed really odd, or it was very heavy-handed compared to the subtlety that kind of shot through the rest of the game, and I thought that it might have been served a little bit better with a kind of Animal House a Fallout type ending, where it's like, okay, then this is what happened to these people. This is what happened to these people, you know, as a result of your choices, and everybody would get a slightly different ending based on what choices they had made over the course of the game. That seemed like it might have been more natural than hey, let's just hit a button and pick our ending.
Or pick from a list the people you want to save and the people you don't want to save.
Well, you get an Excel spreadsheet.
Best ending, save Warren and Chloe. It's whatever.
and I mean it reminds me of the whole outcry and everything about Mass Effect 3. Now I haven't played through that whole trilogy, but it was, correct me if I'm wrong, but it was kind of the same sort of thing where, you play through all these games, you made all these choices and everything, and right at the end, it's like, okay, make a choice, and that will tell you what ending, or that will dictate what ending that you did, rather than the actions that you took throughout the course of this game. And so, yeah, that kind of bothered me too, is right at the end, it didn't really matter if Warren beat the crap out of Nathan earlier in the game or anything like that. None of that stuff even mattered anymore. It's just like, do you want Chloe to live or do you want Chloe to die? Or do you want Arcadia Bay to not be torn up by a tornado? Probably a better way of putting it.
Made my choices seem sort of insignificant in the grand scheme of things.
Yeah, from the past chapters, for sure.
That's, and would she have had a chance to warn people too? I mean, yeah, the option was very binary. Good comparison to Mass Effect.
I think she had tried to warn people. Oh, no, maybe she didn't. I don't remember anymore.
Just that homeless lady in the back alley.
Yeah, the lady in the, the one behind the diner.
Yeah.
That was the only one who listened, I think.
She didn't listen to me. She got crushed.
Oh, dear.
Oh, she packed up and left in my story.
Yeah,
I'll be honest, I didn't try too hard.
But here's a question. If they didn't give you the choice, if they had just gone with okay, at this point, now Chloe has to die, what would you have liked that more?
I would have screamed at my TV.
I would have.
There you go, right?
For me, I would have thought it would have been really interesting is that if okay, so Chloe dies or whatever, right? And then the game finally tells you that this is something that you can't fix. This is something that you can't do no matter what. This person is going to die. Rather than giving you a choice or whatever, almost like the game sort of making a statement or whatever.
Yeah, on the futility of life, like a nihilist sort of.
Trying to really tell you that life is indeed strange.
Whoa. I'm making a bumper
deep
out of that quote, Brett.
Well, and as I'm playing the game, I'm trying to keep the title in mind and see if, is there any sort of moment or point in the game where, the title kind of resonates. And I'm not even really sure. It's just kind of, I guess, the entire experience or whatever is strange. But
yeah.
I don't know, maybe a bit over analytical or whatever, but
Game title, this particular experience is strange, does not ring as well.
Well, I think it's also the whole game itself is a coming of age thing too, with teen angst and dealing with all these issues and stuff. And
yeah,
I guess from that angle, you could say, yeah, life is strange.
So
back to when you were saying if this just happened without any choice in the matter, I think it would have been kind of neat if how they used Victoria from the previous chapters. If you were nice to her, then you would have these options, and if you weren't nice to her, you wouldn't be able to save her or warn her. It would have been cool if you had that kind of similar thing with Chloe at the end, depending on the choices that you've made throughout the whole game. If you've chosen Chloe over other particular situations, then you would have this particular ending without you getting to choose at the end what to do. That would be kind of neat.
Yeah, I think that would have been pretty good.
I looked this up online and watched YouTube. Mm-hmm. And if you chose Chloe the whole time and you didn't choose Warren at all and you didn't kiss him and you didn't go to going ape or whatever that thing is called, then at the very end, no matter what choice you make, you kiss Chloe and then make that choice.
Oh, neat.
Oh.
I thought we'd be able to sacrifice ourselves to bring back Rachel. That's what I was kind of expecting. Right? Make a totally selfless, you're trying to save Chloe. Chloe is the ultimate. And then you make this super selfish decision. Strange choice. I wonder if they just struggled to end the game. Maybe it was one of these things where the developer just what do you do? You've crafted such an interesting experience.
I'm guessing that, yeah, you get to the end and then the writers probably were intending that you have to basically revert everything and go with the bittersweet choice of, like, you know, saving everyone and sacrificing one person, even if it involved like all these experiences that you went through that basically only you know but nobody else knows. And they probably felt that, like, by just simply doing that, then it probably wouldn't have been, like, you know, like as Roz was saying, she would have screamed, right? So they probably, you know, just threw in that sort of secondary choice to make you seem like you have a choice.
But yeah, that almost, to me, that almost, like the way you explain that or whatever, that almost feels like a cop out.
Yeah.
If that's the ending they intended, I feel that they should have just said, "This is our ending."
Yeah.
You know, and that was the same with BioWare and their ending, like,
which was actually a really good fleshed out ending.
Right. And well, just added info or whatever. I mean, after that outcry about Mass Effect 3, they did expand on it or whatever, right? But they didn't change it. They didn't say, no, sorry, this, you guys didn't like this ending, so we're changing it or whatever. Like, no, we're sticking with our vision, right? So I think there's something to be said for, just kind of, I guess, sort of from artistic stance or whatever, right? You know, like I said, that choice kind of felt like a bit of a cop out. Like,
yeah,
if that's what you're saying, that, you know, it maybe the intention was to, for Chloe to die, right? To give you that kind of cop out choice of saving her then. But that's me.
Could have been worse. They could have ended it with, "And then you wake up."
God. Ooh.
Well, actually, if you think about it, the moment you save Chloe at the very first chapter, the game basically goes into an alternate reality. Letting Chloe die is the real reality, if you think about it.
The alpha timeline.
Yeah, exactly.
Well, I'd say it's hard to really say that because that was all a dream, right? Because like what Justin was saying, you know, you wake up from that nightmare of a dream and then it plays out, and then you know what to do. You know that you can hit a fire alarm or whatever and save this person, right? But even you know, just having it was all a premonition to begin with. So
no, she actually stuck her hand out and rewound time when she said no, and then she basically jumped all the way back to being in the classroom.
We're not going to solve time travel on this.
It was Chloe's death that triggered the whole thing to start.
I'm trying to think now. I feel like I should replay the game.
Don't do it.
Don't do it, man.
Well, I'm not going to do it because we are doing a little time traveling ourselves. We have a game to play next, right?
Oh, and we also have a question to answer.
Did you go to Segway
And we have a
school?
question to answer. I'm just jumping in when I can here. So that's right. Adrian, you asked... Do you want to ask it again?
No, I can't remember what you're
From
talking
the end of our last
about.
episode?
I don't know what you're talking about.
You asked us...
Netflix show.
Oh, the casting.
Who will play Max?
Yeah.
Yeah. I remember.
Yeah.
Maybe he doesn't want to.
I bet he goes silent.
Well, okay. I originally said Kiernan Shipka and Anna Sophia Robb, but I think that Anna Kendrick can pull off being a teenager, and she should be in everything. So Anna Kendrick for president. There you go.
That's true. She is wonderful.
I liked your Kiernan Shipka.
That is a good one.
Mad Men for life.
She's in Unbreakable Kimmy Schmidt as well.
Oh, okay.
So
I ended up choosing Elle Fanning
Oh, good
Right.
choice.
Another good one.
As Max, was it?
as Max. Yeah.
Yeah.
Nice.
Yeah.
And how about you, Alissa?
I chose Joey King she's in Fargo as Greta Gimli. I chose her as Max, and then for Chloe, I was thinking Chloe Moretz because I had seen her in Dark Places, and I knew she could take the character and make it her own.
Nice, good answer.
And also, her name is the same.
It makes it easy.
Perfect.
Brett?
I remember I chose Chloe Grace Moretz, but I don't think as Chloe. I think it was as Max.
Yeah, you said Max.
Yeah. I'm not sure why. I know I didn't give it a whole lot of thought, so I think that was just something to throw in. And Anna Kendrick would be pretty good too. So I don't know, man. Casting. I ain't gonna
Justin,
be
do
a
you
casting
remember
director.
yours?
I chose Chloe Grace Moretz as no, I clearly don't remember. How about you, Roz?
I chose Ellen Page.
Oh, right.
Yeah.
Yeah,
I thought she would be really good.
It's true.
it's really good.
Well, I failed that big time.
That's okay.
So,
We still love you.
oh, that's nice. Thanks, everybody. So, who picks the next game? I can't remember who.
I believe it was
The next
me.
game was
Was
Dan. Dan picked
Brett.
it.
No,
It was.
No.
no, it was Brett.
Yeah.
What did you pick?
Oh, it was
Brett?
Brett. Sorry.
Oh, I remember.
Undertale.
Yeah.
Oh, yeah.
Undertale.
Undertale.
Oh yeah.
Yeah.
I forgot about that game too.
Well, the audience is in for a treat because we already know how that played out, and it was a good game and a good episode.
Yes, it was.
Yeah.
So
It was.
stay tuned for that.
Yes, stay tuned for that. And if you want to email us, what is our email address, Roz?
thebacklogweb@gmail.com,
And our Twitter?
at the backlog web.
And what else do we have? Is that it?
We have an Instagram
Instagram?
Oh,
Same.
yeah.
at the backlog web. Done. All the same. Nice
Awesome.
and easy.
So, guys, reach out to us. Thank you very much for your patience. Again, we all apologize, though I mostly apologize, though we're not assigning blame, but I'm very sorry. We hadn't got this
Screwed
out.
it up.
No. So, you guys have a great couple of weeks and look forward to that Undertale episode. Bye for now.
See ya.
Bye.